It's Power Girl! I'm trapped between worlds! Someone please help me make it back! Power Girl. She's had a more convoluted history than most. Time of recording, she's doing some psychic therapy or helping others with psychic therapy. Trauma, punching trauma in the face. That's a quote from the author, not just me saying that. She is a psychic who now has teamed up with someone who can physically punch her way into somebody's mindscape and then battle their inner demons. This in the backup pages of Action Comics. But for some the question is, wait a minute, wasn't she lost in some kind of inter-time space dimensional void? A void between worlds, or which Power Girl is this? If you were wondering any of those things or just want to talk about Power Girl, this is the video for you. Now for some I know this is not a question, either because you already have the answer, or are not worried or bothered with DC continuity. DC continuity is gonna DC continuity. Or you may not have realized that she was gone in the first place. One of the factors that led to Power Girl being so difficult to track was the fact that her original origin is from another Earth. We did a video on Power Girl's history, a brief overview, but it was a few years ago at this point. And so we'll do a brief cliff notes here just in case you don't have time to go check that out. If you do, I'll of course have the link down below. Power Girl initially debuted on Earth 2. The Earth that pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths 1985 was home to the Golden Age heroes. When DC decided to simplify and shake up its continuity in 1985, that by folding the multiverse into one universe, that Earth was folded into the rest, and not all the characters made it over. The only thing, Earth 1 also had a Supergirl, who was also Kal's cousin from Krypton. But that Supergirl died in Crisis because the mandate was that Superman had to be the last Kryptonian. Oh, how that has changed. And yet the decision was made to keep Power Girl. So how to do this? Why give her a new origin? She's Atlantean now. Until she wasn't. In 2005, Infinite Crisis would reinstate the multiverse, and in that, the Psycho Pirate, who already remembered the status quo from the prior Crisis, tried to drive Power Girl insane by showing her different origins. Next up, he needs to try that with Donna Troy. The big reveal was that her pre-Crisis origin was her true one. She was a refugee from the prior Crisis. So okay, that was the new status quo. For a while, things were stable. Until 2011, when DC rebooted its entire line with Flashpoint, or the New 52. Flashpoint led into the New 52. This was in a bid to make the universe more new reader friendly, provide a jumping on point, and also remove some of the burden of Legacy, and hopefully sales cha-ching. A lot of Legacy characters were deleted so that the main Earth timeline could be simplified. Some characters would end up being added back in later, and others would be shuffled off, just like pre-Crisis, to another Earth. And that's what happened in Power Girl's case. She resided in a different comic set on another Earth. This version of Power Girl would predominantly have adventures with the Huntress, aka Helena Wayne, who were established as being from Earth 2. There'd be a comic, World's Finest. It was fun. She would also visit Earth 1, the main Earth of the New 52. And she would serve as a mentor to and eventually source of powers for Tanya Spears, who would become that Earth's Power Girl because Power Girl would even leave her her name, being like, you should use my name, continue the legacy. So 2 Power Girls, a different one for each Earth. Then DC decided to do away with the New 52, but not in as hard and abrupt a reboot, and only kinda. Some of the things still linger. Now, while some things from the New 52 landed, others didn't. And while over time some people have come to be less harsh on it, at the time there was much unrest from long-term fans. This is about the direction of certain core characters, and it still generally isn't the best received. So a soft reset loomed on the horizon. It happened in multiple parts and was spread across various events and publishing initiatives. And one event was incredibly late, that being Doomsday Clock. The New 52 wrapped up with Convergence, and then the DCU, and then Doomsday Clock, which started after Rebirth had already started. Convergence and the DCU were from 2015. Convergence was an event that ran from April to May and had 8 main issues, but 40 tie-in issues. I have a lot of those. I bought into Convergence. These are as many as I can hold up at once. Convergence wrapped up plots started in Future's End and World's End, and it was a way to work in some pre-Flashpoint characters, but more than that. It was also about giving some endings and the idea of closure and just a comfort that the characters were still out there somewhere. There was a decent amount of fan service in this event, as some had really been longing to see certain versions of characters again. You even had things like Zero Hour and the Tangent Universe, and it went very wide. Cliff notes. Brainiac collects champions from various continuities, cities/timelines, and puts them in domes outside of space and time, and then exposes the domes in a massive experiment. This culminated in the idea that the canon for the past multiverse and the modified multiverse were still in play. That those timelines lived on. Even if you weren't seeing them, they hadn't just ended, they were out there somewhere. So the idea was that if you missed a character or were thinking about them, they were out there doing their thing. I see you, Proto-Omniverse. Some of the things from Convergence would end up being folded into the main timeline later on. John Kent is born during Convergence. So both pre-Crisis and New Earth Power Girl should be out there doing their thing. So why any confusion? Enter the DCU. That's YOU. Different than the Dawn of DCU, DC, the letter U, which they're doing currently time of recording. This was a publishing initiative that was going to take DC in a new direction, with a mandate of story over continuity, which applied in some cases but not all. There were 24 new series announced, and 25 were just going to continue on, but they could incorporate some new elements. This is where you got things like long-haired renegade Hal Jordan, or Commissioner Gordon Bunny Mech Batman. When it came to the newly announced series, creators could largely pick and choose what continuity they were going to play with and introduce new elements. Which brings us to June of 2015 and Harley Quinn and Power Girl #1, written by Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti, and Justin Gray, with art by Stefan Roux, colors Paul Montz. This series saw an amnesiac Power Girl who had already been convinced by Harley Quinn that she was her sidekick go on a madcap adventure with her. They ended up going across the galaxy. But for some, the question was, which Power Girl is this? I have that one too. It's close to me. All of these things are very close to me today. It's very convenient. Now, this Power Girl just appeared, so some assumed that it must be the New 52 Earth 2 Power Girl, while others were convinced no, this is the pre-crisis Power Girl. While she had the New 52 costume, she had the pre-crisis attitude, but New 52 is the last Power Girl in play. The creative team had previously helmed the Power Girl series under the pre-Flashpoint continuity, so that's probably why her personality lines up with that Power Girl. In an interview in 2015, the creative team talked about their love for the character, though they didn't specify exactly pre-crisis. Connor stated, "We actually love Power Girl so much, and we miss working on that character, so we just said, let's put Power Girl and Harley together. Why not?" None of the interviews I could find got pedantically nerdy enough to ask the question of, but what universe is this? I don't know why they suddenly have a microphone. To be fair, for the average fan, that's a very insider baseball question. It's very push your glasses up, actually. Which, I mean, what could I say? I live in that dark corner of fandom. Most of the interviews are Connor and Palmiotti being excited to just be able to write whatever in their style and play with characters they enjoy. So for some, there really wasn't much concern about whether the story was going to fit in overall with DC's ongoing continuity or not, or if it even had to. This series is kind of written in such a way that if you want to, you can just ignore it, though part of it did conclude in Harley Quinn's ongoing run at the time. So for some, the answer to New Earth or pre-crisis Power Girl was simply yes. That series was a 6-issue mini, and following that, Power Girl was pretty MIA, until a surprising turn over in Deathstroke Annual #1 from 2018. This issue also marks the last sighting of, time of recording, Tanya Spears, and she does not go out well in this issue. This is just, what an issue to end on and just leave everything hanging. This issue is by Christopher Priest, with art by Larry Hama, Denny Cohen, and inks by Bill Sienkiewicz, colors by Jeremy Cox. Near the opening, we have a huge page proclaiming, "Can anyone read my comm channel? It's Power Girl. I'm trapped between worlds. Someone please help me make it back." These are nightmares that Tanya is having. She's convinced Karen is trying to reach out to her. Now, in terms of the Karen version of Power Girl, we see her again at the end of the issue, after Tanya creates an etheric transponder to reach her in the void between worlds. She does not leave a note, so when Wallace West, her boyfriend, comes upon her, he assumes that she's dead and that she killed herself.
That's why you always leave a note.
Seriously, nothing? Not a post-it, not a text, not anything anywhere? Just a quick, "Hey, please don't unplug me. I'm going to the void between worlds and I need to be plugged in to come back. Getting a version of Power Girl out of the void, which one TBD? See you later. I've got you. Hi Karen, great to see you again. The good news is, you're no longer alone. The bad news, Kid Flash separated me from my transponder. I'm trapped here with you." The end, for now. She is way too cheerful about being trapped in the void. That is not the face of someone who's about to contend with the existential horror of just being trapped there forever. Although, I mean, after how that issue went down, maybe she'd rather be in the void. So where is the which Power Girl is this confusion coming from? This is a pre-crisis costume Power Girl. It's not really the New 52 look. There are some subtle differences. Note the clasp on the other side, and also the difference in belt. But Tanya says, "Nice to see you again," and she interacted with the New 52 version of Power Girl. And that was the last one seen in play, unless you believe that Harley Quinn Power Girl was different. Now, some may be wondering, why does it matter? Well, for some it doesn't. A Power Girl is a Power Girl, while others lean more towards no, they were different characters, so it should matter because they would be characterized differently. Or some just like knowing so they can slot everything together. That for them is part of the fun, following a cohesive universe. No matter how convoluted it can get at points, still making it all fit together can be a fun exercise, and also make it feel a bit more meaningful. Now, for many years the question was moot, and there was simply a Power Girl-less existence, any version of Power Girl at DC, DC. Until Doomsday Clock number 12. Now the DCU did not last long. Starting in 2015, it was replaced in 2016 by Rebirth. And part of the start of Rebirth was Doomsday Clock, whose concept had been seeded in the Rebirth special with the spotting of the iconic button. It was meant to be a 12-issue maxi series going from 2017 to 2018. Because of numerous delays, issue 12 ended up being released in December of 2019. And some of the events in it were key to reshaping how one thought of Rebirth and the New 52. But by the time it was done, years had passed. And some of the gravitas of the things it ended up saying ended up being lost, and some of it felt like it had been altered as it went along. Now initially, the blame for the New 52 was placed solely on Barry Allen messing up the timeline. In Flashpoint, he went back to try to save his mom, messed up the world, had to change it back. When he ran back, things were not the same. Now Doomsday Clock introduced another idea. The concept that what happened also was because of Dr. Manhattan, because he used it as a chance to tweak Superman's origin and make some changes that led to even more drastic changes in the New 52 timeline. In issue 12, he alters those changes, but it's not like everything goes back to how it was pre-Flashpoint. However, one of the things that was changed was the reintroduction of Legacy into the main Earth, or at least into the Rebirth world. So the JSA reappeared, and that included Power Girl. And since New 52 Power Girl was a different Power Girl, that meant that this Doomsday Clock version was the pre-alteration version, or something close to. So she was just kind of back. So of course some wondered, what about that space void? That was a thing that was happening. Not addressed time of recording. What instead occurred was a slow crawl of Power Girl coming back into focus. First, she was mostly just appearing in the background of things or having a line here or there, building up through Infinite Frontier. This was from when DC was really playing with the concept of the Omniverse, which ended up being another period in DC continuity history where the question was, which continuity is this? And the answer is yes. She wasn't One-Star Squadron, but the placement that series has in any kind of canon that impacts the main verse is vague at best. It's much more meant to be a comedy one-off series. Her first proper involvement with overall DC goings-on was in Dark Crisis, an event from 2022, which led into 2023. This was meant to be another altering of the status quo, even though not a lot changed, and basically it ended with, there are many multiverses. Also, Nightwing is important. Like him. I already did, DC. I already did. When all the various realities are pulled together into a battle, she is there and is recruited by Damian Wayne Robin on a mission to depower Pariah. And we got this hilarious Grumpy Damian panel. She was then featured in the Lazarus Planet event, specifically in Lazarus Planet Alpha, although she's set to be in a couple more issues, which sees the Lazarus resin from the Lazarus Pit volcano entering the atmosphere to cause a storm that is altering people's abilities. She was part of the team that answered Damian's call for help. But before that, out there in the real world, there had already been announcements that Power Girl was going to get her own backup story in Action Comics, and also that she was going to be one of the characters who had new powers. So in Lazarus Planet, Assault on Krypton under Leah Williams and Marguerite Sauvage, we see the start of the Where We Are time of recording Power Girl status quo. It's not clear in this issue how she got from where she was onto the astral plane and then into Omen's mind, though that could come in Lazarus Planet Omega. Nor does this one-shot explain that it was Lazarus resin that unlocked her psionic abilities. Action Comics does that. But there are some which Power Girl is this hints dropped inside of this issue. There are a few very important things you need to know about me. One, I come from a place very, very far away, a place that no longer exists. 2, I'm good with technology, naturally, after all I was raised by it. 3, I'm very strong. In fact, I am the sole survivor of 2 distinct mass extinction events. Which brings us to the last thing I want you to know, that I am currently at present dying. She's not actually. So the origin we're shown lines up with pre-crisis Power Girl, because we see the psycho pirate there and it labels her as a survivor of 2 crises. Now so far again there hasn't been a mention of the Void, and this run claims that it's going to tackle trauma. That sounds pretty traumatic. Also, what happened to Tanya? Time will tell. So far nothing in Action Comics, which delivered what Leah Williams promised in an interview, which is Power Girl going into people's psyches and punching their trauma in the face. She's like a warrior J-Lo from The Cell, which I posted about. A lot of people were just confused. I guess I thought more people had seen that movie. In that movie she's a therapist who goes into people's minds, and she has to go into a serial killer's mind, and much trippy imagery ensues. Power Girl and Omen have a permanent psychic link now, by the way, and we still don't know what that means or why it happened to us. Well, what we do know is that we have a permanent telepathic connection. I think we should work together. Partners. I can guard your 6. My 6 what? It's just a saying. It means I can watch your back. It seems like my strengths are your weaknesses and vice versa. We're not the same, you and I. Why would Power Girl not know that phrase? She's not new to Earth, and that's not the first time that happens in this issue. Jumping the gun? Why would we do that? You know, sometimes I forget that you're an alien who was raised by a spaceship AI, and then you go and get sidetracked by idioms. It means acting rashly. But Power Girl has been out of the space pod for quite some time. She's worked with the JSA and others. Chances are she's encountered a lot of common parlance on Earth. She's been there a while. Or has she not? This is a different Power Girl. But no, if she had all that psycho pirate stuff happen, she would have been out for quite some time. Power Girl has some distinct personality traits. It's not really necessary to go and grab the Teen Titans Titans/Teen Titans Go Starfire ones and apply them to her. Mileage will vary, but to lean into the alien who doesn't comprehend Earth angle seems like an odd way to take the character. She was the CEO of a company for a bit if we're still taking that into play. Also, with all the comments she must get, I'm sure she's heard tons of Earth parlance. Side note, I get that Garfield isn't changing out of this form, but why is he on a leash? Just gonna go with the Omniverse answer, yes. Will the Void be brought up again? Time will tell. Watch, it's gonna happen next week, just because I said that. So some are still convinced that this isn't exactly pre-Crisis Kara, but some kind of facsimile or version thereof. Without concrete details, it's still hard to pin down exactly, though it looks like it's leaning pre-Crisis. And some are simply saying, I don't care. Or they don't feel it needs to be exact. This can be one of those things that's left just kind of floating. Well, others need to know. But that's where she was and how she came back, which may be two completely unattached things. But that's what happened. And that's what she's doing. Time of recording. How do you feel about Power Girl? Which version do you think this is? Do you care? What do you think of this direction for the character? Do you want to see Tanya again? Share your thoughts down below. And while you're down there, please do all YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it. I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.